Welcome to UO Today. I'm Steve Shankman, Director of the Oregon Humanities Center. Today our program is going to focus on an innovative stage production by the University of Oregon Veterans and Family Student Association, the University of Oregon Theater Arts Department, and Jonathan Way. The theater production is called True. It's a presentation of stories from University of Oregon and Eugene area veterans told in their own words and in their own voices. We have with us today Jonathan Way, the former coordinator of non-traditional student programs at the University of Oregon from 2005 to 2007, a writer of fiction. His work has appeared in Glimmer Train, the North American Review, Rivendell, and other journals. He is a fellow of the Vermont Studio Center, Atlantic Center for the Arts, and was named the Borchardt Scholar at the Sewanee Writers Conference in 2004, and he currently hails from Austin, Texas. Hook 'em horns. Next to him is Shane Addis, an Operation Iraqi Freedom vet and a 24-year-old senior in the School of Business. Shane Addis is also a sergeant in the Marine Corps Reserves, and he is the co-director of the Veterans and Family Student Association here on campus. Finally, John Schmoor is an associate professor and the head of the Theater Arts Department. He received his PhD from the University of Oregon in 1991. After 8 years of teaching in Missouri, he returned to the University of Oregon in 1999. He teaches performance theory and aesthetics, acting, and theater history. In addition to directing annually for the Theater Arts Department, he has performed with the Willamette Repertory Theater and directed for Lord Liebrick. Every other year, he leads students in collectively devising an original theater event. And this is a very original theater event. It's such an extraordinary project. Jonathan Way, let's start with you. Tell us what True is all about and how it came about.
Well, what it's all about is it's evolving still. I think that let me answer that question second. The way that it came about, in working with the veterans here on the U of O campus and with the Veteran and Family Student Association over the last couple of years, one of the things that we consistently were doing was outreach, trying to get information about veterans returning to campus, to the campus at large, and to the community of Eugene at large. The kinds of experiences they'd had, the kinds of things they were bringing to campus, their perspectives. And one of the ways that we were doing this outreach, which was a very poignant exercise, was we were staging panel discussions in which veterans would volunteer, and they would appear before an audience, and they would pass a microphone around, and they would talk about their experiences. And they were amazing. The stories that would come out were really rich, and they were fundamentally important. And what was happening is, because of the nature of a panel discussion, and on several levels, the audiences were somewhat small, oftentimes people who were already affiliated with or interested in military affairs. And people were extemporizing while they were up there, so they would come off after the panel discussion and they would think, I wish I had said this, or I wish I hadn't said this. Mm-hmm. And this project is basically, it was an opportunity to formalize some of those stories, to give the veterans a chance to actually work through the material, both aesthetically, personally, on various levels, and then present it in a way that was, it was more solid in some respects, or in some ways they were able to actually control that process a little more carefully.
So where does John Schmoor fit into this? I mean, when did he get into this process? When did it become clear that what you wanted to do was some kind of dramatic production?
Well, last spring, the idea occurred to me to do something similar to the Vagina Monologues, and one of the reasons that idea occurred to me is because the veterans had actually helped the Women's Center out last year with Vagina Monologues, with their production of it.
Now, how did that come about? What was the reason for that particular alliance?
Well, that was one of the things that when I was their advisor, I was promoting them as an organization, making alliances with as many organizations on campus as possible. A, because they had expressed from the beginning the interest in being a service organization here at the U of O. I mean, that was a very important part of it for a lot of the people who were involved. And B, just because I saw how much they had to offer. I saw how that would be a really great way for a bunch of these students who were feeling somewhat isolated to start really making connections in a broad variety of venues. The Women's Center was a great organization, has been very supportive of the Veterans Organization since the beginning, and vice versa. And so that idea kind of came out of that relationship. As soon as it became clear that we were going to be doing something a little more staged, I had worked with John putting on a writers' conference last year here at the University of Oregon. And I just thought of him immediately, and of course, what we needed was, first of all, the veterans to be interested, and second of all, somebody to actually, who knew how a stage production could work, to be involved. I felt reasonably confident in the writing end of things, but in terms of staging, I really was a babe in the woods. And so I went to John, asked him, and as it had been with the veterans, the response was immediate and absolutely enthusiastic. Sort of unqualified, yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned that you've been interviewing, you had been interviewing veterans to get material for the development of the script, and you've brought a clip with you of some of the participants. So let's take time now and have a look at that clip.
I think there's a little bit of a stigma for soldiers. If you try to seek help, it's almost like a weakness, admitting that there's a weakness there. And I actually did go to see a counselor for a few sessions, and I remember that it was a terrible way to set up the system. They just had a big database of counselors and psychiatrists that were willing to see veterans, but maybe had no experience. So the person that they assigned me to was an individual who was a family counselor and specialized in children and pediatric work. And I remember my last session with him, he looks at me and says, what do you need from me, Anna, to help you? You tell me. And I said, no, I'm here so you can tell me. And I walked out and never went back. I just said, this isn't helping, and I don't even know why I did this, it's stupid. When I got back, I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of just jittery a lot, and just didn't really want to sleep a whole lot. And I don't know if I was just trying to adjust to a schedule, but I didn't want to admit that there was a lot of things that were bothering me, and maybe a 21 or 22-year-old college student would think she's crazy, or she's just there's something wrong with her, we don't want to hang around her. I didn't want that to happen, so really I tried as hard as I could to try to somewhat transition, find a way to transition and just mesh in with college life, and it was very difficult.
Shane, I understand that you describe being a student here as being or living in the shadows, quote unquote, unquote. Do you want to give us a sense of what you mean by that phrase?
I think when I said that, I remember at this time when it's that transition between, let's say, I went over to Iraq in 2005, coming back into an environment or college kind of life, and it was different. I originally went from high school to college here, and from that I joined the Marine Corps. And I remember my experiences as a freshman. The people you meet, the friends you have, and the kind of the experiences. When I came back here, there was something different. The integration back with the community, the campus life was just kind of different. So at a time, I felt like I was in a shadow of what is being walked upon, on campus. So that's what inspired me to definitely be involved in a student group directed towards veterans, because by any means, I don't want to have any student veteran here to have to live in an isolated type of environment when this should be the best time of their life. And to have that encouragement to starting something like this, to helping them express themselves and be proud for what they've done and their service, I think that will help them move away from that and out of the shadows in a sense.
Well, Eugene is a very liberal community, and I'm sure you find yourself or found yourself sitting in a classroom and the students really not realizing that you've been a veteran, and probably saying things that are really hard for you to swallow. Perhaps even professors saying things that just don't seem to come from a place that resonates with what your experience has been. Tell us what that's been like. You don't have to mention any names,
Yeah.
but if you've had those kind of experiences, tell our audience what that was like.
I think I've had accounts with that happening. Which is one of the things that kind of like motivate in a shadowing type of aspect. You kind of just want to be silent. You don't want to identify yourself as that or being related to that, because there's a theme, there's a presence of what is being addressed to, like militarization or the military and the conflict currently. So I think definitely my first year back, I just kept my mouth shut. I said, they don't even need to hear my side. They won't even take care of it. Now I think, with that progression, getting back into it, I think I can express myself better, give them a side that is unfiltered in my view, in my voice, and something that hasn't been portrayed in a simple textbook of what they read about. And I feel like it gives me that motivation to have that. But it's definitely out there, and that's exactly why we got to start bringing that awareness to even the faculty, but also in the classrooms and the students that, there are student veterans that walk among us, and you always got to have an open ear and open voice to be watched for what you say, in a sense.
So I'm sure you were angry. I mean, there were times when you were just angry at what you heard?
Sometimes they're very just one-sided, but what do I do? Raise my hand? Like, I raise my hand, they ask you, what did you do last summer? I tell them I went to Iraq, and the response I get in the class is complete silence.
I see.
So
not even curious, like,
No.
and not after the class coming up to you or that
No,
sort of thing?
no,
Not
just
even
silence.
that? I see.
So
Yeah, well, I guess, to put the best face on it, they don't know how to deal with that
of
either.
course, exactly.
So coming home is tough, and what we're going to do now is we're going to listen to what Anna Nam told Jonathan Way about coming home.
It was really hard to try to go and mesh into a society where you know that you have to live another life and try to hide your history. It's almost as if I were to come to campus and try to hide the fact that I was Asian.
Shane, do you have concerns about what you talked about as a student? It's difficult to do that, to sort of come clean about what your experience has been. What about in the wider community in Eugene, not necessarily on campus?
I think it definitely needs to, for starting here, as a liberal kind of a campus, in a sense, I think if anything, to start that model of having student veterans speak out, having that community, starting to support them even more. We are getting support, but just to keep that in mind and never forget that. And also that needs to be the role model, in a sense, of the community of Eugene and Springfield to emulate that. And if we can start something here that can help build that fire, in a sense, that inspiration, I'm sure, the Eugene community and Springfield will take that onto themselves to help do that, help spread out that word.
Have you spoken with the mayor?
The mayor?
Yeah, of Eugene about this issue?
I have not.
Personally.
But that's a good idea.
Well, I'm just wondering how much are people conscious out there, in the government of this issue? Not necessarily at the university, because you've been at the university and you were, Jonathan, and working on this issue. But I don't really think that the culture itself is being tutored, being trained on how one deals with this reality. So, I think be an interesting thing to do.
It would be.
Yeah. John Schmoor, tell me about some of the challenges involved in staging testimony. In effect, that's what this is, isn't it? It's people bearing witness, and somehow then it's staged. And when you stage bearing witness, doesn't something kind of get a little inauthentic about that? How do you keep it alive?
Good question. We haven't gotten into regular rehearsals, so I don't know yet. And I've never worked on material that's coming directly from performer's experience in quite this way. The other student-devised works always were based somewhat in what the performer had chosen, but there were outside texts and influences brought to bear. This is all coming from them. I'm hoping, my guess right now is that we have a number of vignettes that are acted out, that the performers play different characters, different experiences than they've actually had. When they speak solo, then you're hearing their words their experience. And what I'm hoping is the audience will feel, the audience will feel like that question is leavened a little bit by also doing some play acting, if that makes any sense. In the theater, if you can shift those gears back and forth between the authentic and the performed, then the audience is willing to go with it. If we were to try and do a somber, serious witness piece, you're probably right. It would start to feel a little, and I know that some of the vets have felt that way, that it's felt awkward to speak their own words and know that they're going to have to perform it. I think that came up between you and I, actually. Yeah. We talked about, in my opinion, performing is a way of telling the truth, even if you're pretending to be Richard III. So for me, there's no question about that. I think only non-actors feel like actors are liars. Actors know that they have to tell the truth.
Well, it's not so much. It's not so much that. It's just that you have two different kinds of discourses going on within the play. One in which you've got this dramatic illusion, and the other in which you've got this very serious testimony, which is life and death issues.
You bet.
And so there's a kind of a tension between these two kinds of discourses. And
plus a long-standing cultural hesitation to trust whatever we're seeing on stage.
Yeah.
That goes back thousands of years.
Right.
And you always have to be aware that that's in the audience.
Yeah. Although in the American psyche, it's almost the other way around. We're so used to having figures bare their souls, you know, in public. But what we're less, I think, probably good at is the other.
Only celebrities, right. The unknown, the one that's been living in the shadows, that's the person we don't expect to trust on stage. So this is going to be a trick.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like it's going to be just a fascinating production. So how long have the veterans been preparing? And you say, have you actually begun your rehearsals yet?
We've been doing a class and experimenting with these texts, because I'm trying to figure out just what you asked, kind of what are the staging possibilities before it becomes too gimmicky. We started in September, right? With, first week of classes. We meet every Friday from what was it? It was 5 to 7.
And how many people are involved? How many actors are there, or whatever you want to use the word? How many veterans are part of this?
I want to say between 11 and 14. We haven't finalized yet.
Okay. And are they getting any credit for this?
Some are, and some are doing it just strictly volunteer because they can't pay for the extra credit. But those who needed the credit have taken it.
Right. And so, what are the rehearsals like so far?
Challenging every single time we do it, and there have been rehearsals where I walked away feeling just so honored and humbled by what I was hearing and seeing. Because these aren't actors, any of them. I mean, a couple of them had, I think, some high school acting experience. You can kind of tell who the hams are, or the storytellers are. And then there are days where I would think, how am I ever going to get this to move? I'm most worried about it becoming kind of a talking heads show. And I don't mean the rock band. But yeah, every single rehearsal's been different. New things come up. I tried this little thing with them that I think we're going to open the show with that was just this sort of lucky, accidental experiment. But there have also been experiments that were just, didn't work. And they're always eager, they're always willing. They have an incredible sense of flexibility and humor. And this probably the strangest thing for me is that they have half of what any good actor would spend months researching. They have the background and the experience for any of this text. So all you have to say is, take this dialogue and show me something from basics, and they know how to do it.
And when is the production going to be?
February 7th, no, 8th, 9th, 10th? At the Veterans Memorial Hall.
Now, Jonathan, you interviewed a veteran, Joshua Coombs, who I think he wasn't too happy with what he referred to as the bumper sticker war, of the civilian bumper sticker war. Let's hear about that right now.
Anytime I see a bumper sticker, I don't care what side it is. I'm just like, dude, nobody gives a damn. Nobody's going to get out of their car and go, you know what, I really agree with you, or you know what, I really disagree with your opinion. Let's have a dialogue. No, it's bumper stickers, yellow ribbons, whatever ribbon, they anger me. They frustrate me because it's a shortcut. It's a shortcut to caring. It's not actually caring about what we've done.
Now, the interviews that you've brought have a kind of a bittersweet sense of young men and women who have to come to terms with reality. And let's listen to Jeremy Coombs.
I've never thought of myself as an old man. I had always, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be in the military, and I always wanted to be in the infantry, and I always thought it was, the glorious thing to die on the battlefield and all that, stuff. And so I had always thought that I'd probably be, dead in an early age. As a kid, keep in mind, and then reality sunk in, and then you realize, oh wait, death is permanent. And so I never really thought about, I planned for, retirement and all that stuff. And so I think what I'm just looking forward to is just, living my life and seeing where it takes me.
Shane, I'd like to get back to you now. So you've been working to improve the way the university accommodates the needs of veterans. So tell us some very concrete things that you've been working on.
Well, for one, just trying to expand the awareness that there is a student veteran group on campus, because the only way we can ever get in contact with a veteran is someone only collecting, like, the GI Bill in a sense. So we're limited to only those contacted veterans, but there's plenty of other veterans who are grad students or even beyond that who don't collect benefits, but we still have to, be actively aware of that. Mm-hmm. In addition, also we're trying to write policies that will help accommodate veterans, who, especially active reservists and National Guard, who do these weekend drills, 1 weekend a month, and it always ends up being like right where finals and midterms are. But having some kind of faculty awareness that these happen, and then maybe having some kind of an excuse, a formal excuse, similar to, like, let's say, professional athletes or in college right now, they get the same, I would think, the same mm-hmm. adjustments for that. But it goes on beyond to just like transfer credits from going to boot camp. Also the formal military training that we've done can apply to a lot of the courses too at the University of Oregon. That's something we're trying to work on. I'm really trying to actually have like a very a mentorship or a mentoring faculty member here to work with veterans, especially our group, and to help us just keep tracks, keep them motivated, keep them actively just in charge, kind of like just build that inspiration and let them be involved, because that helps ultimately with PTSD. That's a growing issue with returning veterans. If they can plug themselves back into a community, share their stories, which they can in this group, it's going to help them in the future, and especially having them a college degree is going to only better their futures. Mm-hmm. So having an actual a work study or those type of aspects is also things we're trying to work on.
And remind me if you said this already. How many vets are on campus at the moment? How many student mm-hmm. veterans are there on campus?
Well, currently, the formal number I can give you for the GI Bill is about 150, uh-huh. but I definitely know there's at least double of that.
Double that?
Double that.
Uh-huh.
So I'm thinking around 300, 350, and there's even more at LCC.
Right. And it's a little shocking to me when I think about this that the university hadn't somehow anticipated this as a problem. In other words, that the veterans themselves had to be the ones to generate the awareness of this as an issue. Is that fair to say that that's a rather surprising, or maybe the armed forces, in a sense, should have not only the university, but maybe they need to get more active in somehow working to help integrate people when they're no longer serving. I don't know.
Yeah, it's it's something we got to have our own responsibility to help each other. I mean,
uh-huh.
ultimately we help our brothers and sisters no matter what. We all have had the same experiences. We all lost the same people mm-hmm. in a sense, and we have to put upon ourselves to better each other. It's our responsibility, just as it is with the campus, as mm-hmm. it is with government in a sense. But if we all do that holistically, we're going to better each other. But by all means, it's not any one person's responsibility. But it would, they need to take action and to help and be just positive and just to really open up the doors for us to help us to just grow faster than what we're coming back, because the numbers of deployments are increasing. We got more returning veterans coming back. They need to have that awareness that there will be an increase of those same type of people. So to implement things like a student veteran group that's funded to help, create that publicity out there is all elements that we need, and they need to be aware of that.
John, tell me what you hope that people who come to see your production get out of the production.
Well, I kind of hope that they get what I've gotten from working with these people, that prejudicial views of what a veteran believes are prejudicial views. There's this wide variety of humanity in just this one small group. That there are stories we can ask to listen to. Silence isn't the right response to somebody saying that's what he did with his summer. And I think there are going to be people sitting there who are some of those silent vets that are going to hear. I mean, that would be the most precious thing, is if they join the VFSA and they, oh, okay. This group, the first time, I can't remember what it was. I think it was the first time we brought in some transcript text. They couldn't believe they were hearing, as a group, the same questions they had been asking individually. As long as they've been together, it's still moving to hear that stuff out loud.
Yeah. Well, I hope I'm sure we'll get a consciousness raising experience out of this that everyone will benefit from. It's been great having you all here. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks.
And we've been speaking with John Schmoor, Shane Addis, and Jonathan Way, who are part of this wonderful new production that's being done by True. Thanks very much for being with us. Bye-bye.